everybody's got a mum, everybody's got a grandparent, everybody's got a sibling. Some of them might have experienced people going into care or know people who are going into care. Some of them in today's economy will be working as carers themselves, so they've got experience of it from the employment side of things. So I find it really, really helpful in teaching to try and bring together those perspectives and then point them in the direction of reading that's more theoretical or more empirical, that explains their experiences, that gives them a wider perspective. But it starts from them and what they've actually gone through themselves.
Seminars were fabulous. They were better than the lectures, I would say, because we were in smaller groups and they were very innovative. I think one of the first seminars we did, we were talking about how you decide who gets housing, and the lecturer got a few of us to decide to be on the housing panel and gave us a number of cases and gave us the legislation and the policy, and then we had to decide who would get the house, which was really good because you all of a sudden see, actually this isn't so straightforward, because you're emotionally attached to some of these people, you become caught up in their stories, and then you realise that the policies are giving you exact guidelines which you're supposed to follow, and it all becomes, oh, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be, it's very tricky. So you get an idea of how people that are on the front line have to make decisions based on what the government's initiatives and policies are, but that might conflict with their own, oh, I don't know whether this person should get that house, you know? So that was really good. Yeah, so the seminars were great, and we had a very good diverse group. We had a range of people, and we had people that were from other countries, other nationalities, other cultures that had a different perspective on things. For instance, we were talking about elderly people and how they, whether or not they should go into care and old people's homes, and what the role of the family is. And one guy on the group said he was completely blown away by the European and English viewpoint of it, because in his culture the family look after their elderly. They don't ever consider putting them into a home or whatever. And that sort of really got a lot of conversation, a lot of debate, and keeping people thinking about things in a really different way. One seminar, there was a programme on television called Without Prejudice, and basically you had a group of people that had to come and say why they should deserve to win I think it was £1,000 prize, something like that. And they all came from all different backgrounds, and the first round you only had I think under a minute to put you forward what you thought, and the panel then would have to whittle it down to half, and we went through the same process. And I can remember that we had a lot of discussion about a young guy who was a poet, who had a dog, who wouldn't give his dog up so he could get, because he was homeless, he wouldn't give his dog up to get a house. And there was a lot of discussion about it. And he actually won the prize on the show, and there was absolute outrage. Why does this, because there's this another girl who'd been working with asylum seekers and who'd managed to get herself very educated, had got herself a good job, and had dedicated her life to helping people who had been in a similar situation to her. And we just couldn't understand how the panel could say, no, this poet should win. But it was really good, because you understand then how prejudiced you are and how stereotyped, and how some people were, got rid of in the first stage purely because of what they looked like and the first few words that they said. And then you become to think, oh, actually, is there real fairness? Is there real equality? And these questions then all start brewing up, and it doesn't get taken outside. But it's sort of it's very healthy to have different points of view and to be on different sides, because wherever you go, you're going to meet people that are going to be different to you, but you've got to be able to have a civil conversation and be able to discuss matters. And I think social policy is great for that, because there is no right or wrong answers, just people's ideas and how they think things should be. So it's a really good subject for that sort of thing.
What works best is when you get the students to critically evaluate each other. So using things like peer assessments and using group work where people have to work together towards a defined outcome, and they have to produce a paper together or produce a presentation, and then they have to grade each other. Because that teaches them an awful lot. It teaches them what a good presentation looks like. It teaches them how to work in a group, how to take on leadership roles, but it also teaches them to listen to other disciplines and other views. And particularly within applied social sciences, like social work, that's going to be incredibly important to them when they go out and work, the ability to actually understand other people's views from other backgrounds and other ways of thinking about the world. And they take different things away from that, and certainly the social policy students will take a bit more of a theoretical perspective away, and they will start thinking about, well, how does this relate to issues around well-being and citizenship and need and outcomes and equity? Social work practitioners might think, well, how can I relate this back to my practice? When I actually go out and I'm dealing with vulnerable people, or I'm dealing with children at risk, how is this relevant? And similar with healthcare, nurses will say, well, how is this relevant to my job as providing care? But also, of course, welfare professionals will work within the context of the welfare state, and getting them to understand their organisational contexts. I'm a nurse, but I also work for a health authority. The health authority is about putting into practice health policies that are nationally driven, that are locally driven. I need to understand the context of their policies because they actually impact on my work. So getting them to do that in a kind of academic setting, but in a way that they can then take out into the real world, I think is what works effectively at getting them engaged, but also getting them to learn that they can take their learning with them